Well, that was a game that the Jazz played in. Hopefully, we get some people here in the chat soon so that we don't just have to reminisce and cry about the whole thing. But man, the Jazz just absolutely got destroyed tonight. And I mean, this is only game number 7. 4-3 isn't a horrendous start when you kind of look at where the Mavs are at or where the Nuggets are at. But I mean, you do have the Suns and the Lakers getting off to pretty hot starts. So I'd rather be at the middle of the pack than the back of the pack, obviously. But I think that everyone was just a lot more hopeful for where the Jazz were going to be. Well, obviously, the Nets and the Bucks were the 2 games on this road trip where I wasn't giving the Jazz a lot of a large chance. I was just more so thinking they might pick up one of them. Worst case scenario, they lose both, but it's the beginning of the season. But then when Dinwiddie goes out, and then when Kevin Durant's out for the next 4 games due to COVID protocols, I really thought the Jazz were going to win, and I at least expected them to put up a fight. Now, they really only outright lost the first quarter. After that, the second quarter was a fight, and decent amount of the third quarter was. But when you're down by 20 in the NBA, you basically have lost the game. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 23 minutes in or if it's down by 20 in the fourth quarter. You don't come back from that. Now, the Jazz definitely could have made it close, and I wish that they would have done that like they did against the Suns and the Timberwolves, their other 2 losses of the season. The biggest difference, though, is Gobert just had a terrible game tonight. Against the Suns and the T-Wolves, Gobert had a pretty good game, and that kept the Jazz in it. And he's been really the only player, other than maybe Conley and Clarkson, who have had consistently good games. You've had spotty play from Joe, from Donovan, and from Bogey. So that's really what has hurt the Jazz just overall in the season. And tonight, you had 30 plus from Donovan, I believe, and he technically outscored Kyrie, but Kyrie's points were definitely more valuable when they came. So overall, this was just terrible. It's absolutely shown just kind of the hot and cold nature of the Jazz, where they've had 4 really cold games, got lucky and won the one against Oklahoma City, and then 3 pretty good games. Now, Clippers did come back, but again, you get a 20-point lead like the Jazz did, and you're pretty much guaranteed to win. Even if the other team gets close, it's just really hard to make up that difference, not just from a points perspective or from an NBA perspective, but I'm also sure from an emotional perspective, just the level of involvement. Bogey has something wrong with him yeah. I think that Bogey is just going to take a while to get back into rhythm. Obviously, his wrist is giving him problems. I mean, he did have an incredible game against the Spurs, but that doesn't mean that your wrist isn't going to start flaring up or you're just going to sleep on it wrong. I'm not sure if you can sleep on your wrist wrong, but just things like that. And he hasn't been able to shoot. That's one of the things. When you have your wrist hurt like that, you're not able to shoot over the off season. And I'm sure that just hasn't helped him. So he needs to get back into rhythm. Donovan had a great game tonight, technically from a box score perspective, but I just have a hard time saying anyone had a great game when you just lose by that many points. So overall, the Jazz just need to find a rhythm. They haven't had a rhythm at all this season. The only back-to-back wins they have were Clippers, Spurs. So to go in 7 games, even if you lost 3, I'd like to see some more back-to-back wins there. This also, unless I'm missing any players who were former Jazz in the 2019 offseason or 2019-2020 season, this makes the Jazz 0-3 against Jazz players who have left since Mike Conley got here. this season. You lost to Jay Crowder and the Suns. The Jazz have also lost to Ricky Rubio in Minnesota, and now they lost to Jeff Green and the Nets. So not sure if anyone's on the Knicks. I mean, obviously you have Exum on the Cavaliers. You have Tony Bradley on the Pistons, unless there was a move there. So really hoping the Jazz break this streak soon. I don't know if that's actually, I doubt it's a real thing. Crowder and Rubio, I think, definitely really want to play well against the Jazz. I don't think it impacted the game. Jeff Green really wasn't a force in any way. Next comment in the chat is, yeah, bad on offense, lazy defense. Okay, so Bradley made it to the 76ers. I forgot about that deal. So, yeah, the Jazz just, I don't know if it's when there's too physical. Well, physical defense really hurts the Jazz. Just being pushed around like that isn't great for who they are and how they play, it seems. And I hope that that's just them trying to get back in the rhythm of playing basketball again. But I just feel like the nights that the Jazz have lost, they have looked absolutely horrendous, including the OKC game. I know they won that one. But the nights that the Jazz have won, Clippers, Trailblazers, and Spurs, the Jazz looked amazing. So it's basically been a tale of two Jazz I'm tripping over myself. It's basically been a tale of two Jazz teams this whole season. It's, do you get the Jazz team that comes out, does a decent job in the first quarter and pushes that to a win for the game? Or do you get the Jazz team that comes out, gets thrashed in the first quarter and limps down the stretch, and in every night except for this one makes a game of it towards the end? So should this be all doom and gloom for the Jazz? This loss was terrible. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that. And I do think that the Jazz do have a chance to redeem themselves on this road trip. I do think we're going to see one or two more losses this road trip that we don't want to see. Whether it's, Cleveland, who's had some great guard play, Detroit, who has some young players with a lot of heart, whether the loss that we don't want comes when they come back to Salt Lake after the long road trip and have to play Atlanta, who offensively just dominates and is a powerhouse. I really think overall, sorry about that the Jazz just aren't where they should be if we want to expect a top 4 seed. I think that they'll be in the fight for home court, but if things continue to go down this road, and if they're 12-8 come the 20 game mark, which seems really plausible, I think that's what I'd really expect from the Jazz, is just to have another kind of lackluster seed in the playoffs based on where we could be talent-wise, and then hoping to get out of the first round and have a favorable matchup. So doesn't look like we've got a lot of action on the chat tonight. I'm going to pull up the box score and see if there's anything that I missed. We are kind of trying to switch to more of a live stream than just a game review. So hop on. Dale's going to be on tomorrow after the next game, so probably around the same time, 7:50, 7:55. That would be, the more interaction we get, the better. We're at 180 plus on subscribers, which is really cool. We've definitely seen a lot of growth that we were hoping for, but weren't entirely expecting, just based on the amount of how long this channel's been up. So we're really shooting for that 160 to, sorry, not 160, for that 1,000 to by the end of the season. And the sooner we get there, the more Jazz content we'll be able to do. And we're not entirely sure where we're going to branch out on first, but we have been discussing and taking a look at that. So it really is just a tale of that first quarter, since the lead doesn't really stretch or change until midway through the fourth quarter, when the Jazz decided to pull their starters, which is a hard call to make. But with the Knicks tomorrow, even though you get to stay in the same place and thankfully you don't have to fly, that's definitely the best call to at least, fingers crossed, not drop a game to the Knicks, which would be really painful. Yeah, Donovan had 31, but when you look at O'Neal having 10 points, which is awesome for O'Neal, he had a great layup in the first half. That just showed kind of a flash of what he could maybe be offensively. I don't really think the Jazz need that from him, so I don't think that that's what you're going to see. He's basically put him on the corner or put him on the wing and pass out for three, and that provides the spacing the Jazz need. As amazing as it would be to see him drive, at some point the Jazz already have Donovan, Bojan, and Mike and Clarkson who are capable of that. So I don't think you'll see anything go on from there. But when you have Bojan with 4, Conley with 8, and Clarkson with 12, that's just not a winning formula for the Jazz or for any team for that matter. And here's when you look at the plus minuses of the of the starters, just going to the Nets: Green plus 11, Prince plus 13, Allen plus 20, Irving plus 22, Brown plus 20. There's just, there wasn't a single player for the Nets in the minus tonight, and there wasn't a single player in the plus for the Jazz. So at that point, it's a Jazz loss. There's no way around it. And while I don't want to put too much weight into this game, since it is just one and there's only 7, and this definitely was the worst game of the season, it's just definitely been the tale of 2 games where the Jazz either dominate or they just get dominated. So looks like we're caught up on the live chat. Everything is going well in the world, at least other than the Jazz loss tonight. And I guess if that's all the animosity there is, I'll take it. But thank you guys so much. Please go, if you're catching this right now or just a few minutes after, we're going to be live in the comments. So hit us up there. We'll do our best to respond, and like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We really are shooting to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So thanks so much for tuning in. See you guys tomorrow night, and go Jazz.